a bounty of garden fresh produce right into the kitchen in this next show. Over the past 20 years as a garden designer, I've enjoyed helping homeowners create private sanctuaries full of beauty and wonder. I find each garden to be a fresh opportunity to explore ways to create uniquely personal spaces. These are just a few of the gardens I've helped to transform into garden homes. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. Welcome to The Garden Home, a show about design and blurring the lines between inside and out. And that's exactly what we're doing in today's show. As you can see, we're in full swing with the Garden Home Retreat. The cottage is going up, but that's not going to stop me from blurring the lines between the garden and what will be an outdoor kitchen. You see, an outdoor kitchen can significantly increase the value of your property. And even if you don't go all the way with an outdoor refrigerator or a stove, there's a wide range of grills to choose from the simple to the elaborate. Of course, it's no surprise that the outdoor kitchen is closely associated with the vegetable garden. Now, to give you an idea of the size of this, it's about 18 by 24. You can see it on the drawing. The outdoor kitchen will have a fireplace, a cooking area, a sink for washing veggies and the fruit from the garden. It'll be a great place to congregate with friends. Just like inside the home, everyone seems to gather around the kitchen, and I expect this space to be no different. Now, the main focus of today's show is the kitchen, but I don't want to overlook the garden. After all, it's because of the garden I'm creating this outdoor cooking space. So let's just look over the terrace and take a look at the progress we're making on the vegetable garden. You see, it's young and mainly full of some annual flower color that I'm trying out. Now, if you take a look at my current vegetable garden, you can see the potential of this one. Let me show you. Now, what's different about this vegetable garden and the one out at the Garden Home Retreat is really all about scale. You see here, I have about 8 raised beds on each side of the tool shed, whereas out there, well, we have dozens. But even in this small space, I really pack in lots of plants, both in the way of produce, as you can see with this beautiful lettuce, as well as flowers. Now, some of the other vegetables that are really putting on a show this time of year include the Malabar spinach vine, as well as the peppers. They're really showing out. Then, of course, there are the flowers, the feast for the eyes, and some of my favorites I've grown from seed, like this beautiful cosmos called ladybird. And here behind me, you can see the Polish spirit amaranth. And this particular plant, well, it's a celosia. It's a new variety called Temple Bells Orange. It's beautiful and great for drying. All I do is a little later in the season, when the flowers are a little more mature, I just cut them off at about 10 inches, bundle 10 to 12 plants together, tie a rubber band at the end of the stems, and hang them in the garage until they dry. Now, what you'll find is that each of these flower heads is packed full of tiny little black seed. You can save these by putting them in an envelope and sowing them next year, or you can let some of them just scatter the seed naturally out here in the garden. They'll come up next year as a volunteer. Now, watering has never been an issue in this garden. You see, I have an irrigation system, and each of these beds is watered with soaker hoses, so I can adjust the amount of water each bed gets. It's important that the soil stay consistently moist. Now, at the Garden Home, well, that's a different story. Water is an issue out there. We drilled a well and found a source for water, but the water is really high in iron as well as chloride, so it required a filtration system. You see, I want to approach this in the most environmentally responsible way possible. After all, that's what the whole Garden Home building project is about. Now, I learned a way to conserve water recently that made a lot of sense. It's called rainwater harvesting. Sean Hatley of Bray Rainwater Technologies came out to the building site and gave me some ideas that I should think about with regard to how my property could benefit from harvesting what Mother Nature is already providing us. We're finally getting that rain we've been waiting on.
Alan, it is raining today.
It actually feels pretty good. I can't tell you how dry it's been around here, so I'm pretty proud of this rain.
I'd say so.
Now, according to you, Sean, this water coming off the building is wasted water.
Yeah, and You know, you're wasting about 50,000 gallons of water every 2 months. That's about how much comes off of this roof every inch of rain.
You're kidding. So if I had some gutters and I could store it, then I would have water for not a rainy day, but for a really dry period of time.
Think of it this way, Alan. You're going to store when it pours. You got a roof, add some gutters, add a tank.
Well, you know, Sean, the climate seems to be changing. I mean, it's been so dry here for the last 3 or 4 summers. I panic. We've got these big, beautiful trees up here on the farm, and I always worry in August and early September when we've gone for a long period of time without rain, are they going to survive again? And now we're putting in this big vegetable garden, and I've got to have a backup.
I'll tell you, the most important or critical time for irrigating your landscapes is during establishment. And you've got to have water. If it's not raining, you need to have a water reserve, a rainwater system collecting this water.
You know, Sean, years ago, I mean, if you think about farmsteads, the barns had gutters, you had water towers and windmills, which were all a part of water collection.
Not too long ago, it wasn't limited to farmsteads. Every house had rainwater supplies as their primary water source.
Well, you know, I think about looking across those roofscapes in New York City. You see towers on top of roofs, and they look quite old.
You do, and you have modern day versions as well that are being used in commercial and residential applications to serve the same benefit, making use of this valuable resource.
Now, realistically, Sean, what are the odds of someone in suburbia America putting up a water tank in their backyard? I mean, they'd be the talk of the neighborhood, wouldn't they?
Yes, they might be the talk of the neighborhood for good reason. You're preserving a natural resource. There's all kinds of water quality benefits. It's a low-cost option. It's a solution that people can do in their own backyard. Naturally better water.
So it's not such a bad thing to be the talk of the neighborhood.
Not in this case.
But you wouldn't have to always have your water stored in a big tank.
No. You can store water below ground, below your lawn, below your parking lot, your driveway.
And draw from there.
Yes, with a simple filtration system and pump system, the water is available to do landscape irrigation, whatever you need.
I just can't tell you how excited I am about harvesting rainwater. It just makes good sense. Back in the 90s, I was out in California and I saw a place where they were actually collecting rainwater and using it in their crops and vineyards. So I wanted to one day apply the same principles to my garden, and that's what I'm doing here. Now, you see, what we're going to do is we're going to place a cistern between this building and another building that'll be over there by those big blocks. In between will be a croquet lawn, but under the croquet lawn will be this large cistern which will hold the water that, when in times of drought, will irrigate the vegetable garden. Now let's turn our attention over here for a minute to the house itself. As you can see, we're making some serious progress. In just a few days, framing will start, and we'll see the bones of the house taking shape. In considering this project, I wanted to make sure that we used materials and methods that were as earth-friendly as possible. You see, one of the things that I'm concerned about is mold on the inside of the house. You want to make sure that the air quality is as good as it can possibly be. I'm going to tackle this on several fronts with the type of heating and air system we're planning to use, by using soy insulation, high-quality windows and doors, and by eliminating traditional drywall. Take a look at this. It's like drywall, except it doesn't have paper. I was really impressed by this stress test at the International Builder Show. Let's stop and take a look. Chris, because homes have become so efficient from an energy standpoint, they're tighter, there's less ventilation, but that sets up a whole nother host of problems.
You're exactly right. The need for energy efficient has caused buildings to keep moisture inside and hold it inside, and because of that, moisture doesn't have a place to escape. And as such, if you have organic materials, and to give an example, a paper-faced wallboard, which is a great product, been around since the 1920s, has paper on both sides. And if the conditions of moisture, mold can come along, and those gather together, that paper can become a source for mold. The coated glass mat surface product protects both sides from moisture, but it also takes away that food source for mold.
You know, one of the things that has struck me at this particular show, going around and looking at different vendors, is the quality of product that goes into a home is really important, because it's what's behind those walls, what's making up the structure of the home that is so important that you don't see. It's covered over with a veneer when you walk into a new home to inspect it, and you really don't know what's behind those walls.
You're exactly right, and that's more true than ever with mold, because with the wall cavity, of air gathering in the wall and not having anywhere to go when moisture gets in there, you can have horrible mold problems with a wall that you look at and don't on the outside and don't see anything. So just as you say, it's what's behind the walls that counts. And I think that's what people are increasingly aware of in construction. It's not just the appliances you buy, the color of appliances, whether it's granite or Corian surfaces, but it's also important how your home is constructed, and we have to think about the products that go into the home when we build the home.
I think we all respond to the superficial veneers in a home, the color, the paint,
Sure.
The choices of finishes and that sort of thing, and we tend to forget what's just beyond that and how the house is actually constructed.
That's exactly correct, and there certainly are circumstances, unfortunate ones, in this country where people have actually had to move out of homes because of catastrophic mold problems. And in many cases, again, getting back to your point, it's not what you see, it's what you don't see.
So you've seen what I like about this product, but you have to ask, what are its drawbacks? Well, one is its price. It's a little more expensive than traditional drywall, but I'm going to factor in the long-term health benefits I'm expecting. And then there's availability and contractor familiarity. These really aren't huge issues, but hey, that's the way it is with new things, right? Now, what if you already have drywall in your home? Short of tearing down the walls, what can you do to help deter mold? Well, mold is often found in areas of the home with the highest levels of moisture or humidity, like kitchens, bathrooms, and the laundry. Of course, in these situations, a dehumidifier can really help dry things out. Mold can also be found growing behind walls and in the floor joists of your home, if your crawl space or basement is in the least way damp. There are plenty of other considerations when trying to keep the mold level down. Often the devil is in the details, as they say. There are small things around the home that can contribute to a mold problem. For instance, we often think of houseplants as being great for keeping the air clean, and they certainly can. But if you're extremely sensitive to mold allergies, then you might want to keep your houseplants to a minimum, because you see the soil or growing medium that they're planted in may be hosting mold. The mold spores get airborne and cause people with allergies to sneeze, have respiratory problems, or itchy, watery eyes. Welcome to the Design Studio. Have I got a beautiful house for you today? Just take a look at this. This house is in Memphis, Tennessee. It's a gorgeous sort of plantation colonial. I'm telling you, I'd love to have a house like that. Now, they're asking for a few suggestions on how to improve the landscape. I mean, what is there not to like about this place? Let me just add a couple of things here that I think might help frame such a beautiful facade. For instance, I'm thinking, you see the boxwood here and here on the planters. What if we repeated those here on the corners of the driveway? Just maybe a big cluster or a cloud of boxwood here, and down here on this side as well, just to help frame the house. I think that what we use here should be simple and understated. And then what if, rather than have the turf come right up to the edge of this parking court, what if we ran an edge all along the front that ran parallel with the driveway, and we planted a ground cover? Maybe it's English ivy. Perhaps it's winter creeper, which would turn a beautiful sort of bronzy green in the winter. And then in front of each one of these columns in the bed, place either one boxwood or a cluster of 3, like this. What I'm doing here is I'm simply repeating the rhythm of the columns all the way across. So you'd have boxwoods at the column, you'd have a cloud on each side, and then in between we would have a simple bed of dark green ground cover. All right, now that's the framing we're doing up close to the house. I think I'd come out on the lawn here and plant a pair of trees that would come up in this shape. Maybe it's a sugar maple or a red maple, something that would give spectacular fall color like that. The last thing to think about would be on the porch, maybe put a pair of benches on each side between these windows. Now what I like to do in a situation like this, when you have such a symmetrical home where you've got rhythm, very strict rhythm being dictated by the columns and the windows, is echoing that in the landscape. We've put a pair of benches on each side, just as we have a pair of planters up by the front door. We have a pair of trees to frame this beautiful picture, and we've repeated that rhythm all the way across in front of each column with boxwoods. Just a few ideas to beautify further this gorgeous home. Now with these virtual makeovers, you've got to use a little imagination. And let's face it, you got to use some imagination out here. I know the site looks like a wreck, but it's really coming together and I'm very excited about it. I'm actually working on a little lunch for the guys, some shish kebab. I've done some zucchini squash and yellow squash with red peppers, along with some chicken and steak. Anything to get them going, and food is a great incentive. I just want to get this place finished up. You know, as a garden designer, I learned years ago that creating outdoor entertaining spaces can be very satisfying. When you think about it, people love to gather where food is being prepared. So I like to create outdoor living spaces that have a dining space or a grill or even an outdoor kitchen. It's just a place for friends and family to gather. Now earlier in the show, I suggested the idea that an outdoor kitchen is a great way to expand your living space outdoors, but it also helps improve your property value. Had an opportunity to visit with Jane Crump about just how far you can go with an outdoor kitchen. Jane, this looks like it could be inside.
Well, that's the newest trend in outdoor cooking, is not just a grill, but way beyond that full outdoor kitchen.
The entire kitchen outside.
Absolutely. That is a huge trend. It's hugely popular. People are really excited about being able to duplicate their beautiful indoor kitchen in an outdoor setting. Not only can you grill, smoke, keep your food warm, you can actually bake outside.
Make a cake.
You can make your dessert. You can toast your French bread, whatever your outdoor baking needs are. Super convenient. And then down below, you can keep all of your beverages. You can keep your condiments cool. It's an outdoor approved refrigerator. But the greatest convenience of all is the ice maker, which controls running in and out of the house to get ice. Absolutely. There's just so much beyond the grill that's available now, and people are really excited about that.
Well, it fits with this whole idea of expanding your living space outdoors.
Well, more and more people are really enjoying entertaining outdoors versus indoors, and there are more and more people building partially enclosed porches or outdoor kitchens with a beautiful fireplace, so they can expand their outdoor living 7, 8, 9 months out of the year.
So Jane, what makes these appliances suitable for outdoor use?
Well, they have to be agency certified to be installed outdoors. Insulated electrical terminals, sealed electrical contacts, and water-resistant thermostats. So all of those together go into very important parts of being
And should they always be covered, like under a cabana or a pool pavilion or something?
Not necessarily, no.
So there's a lot of flexibility in how you can use these in your outdoor kitchen.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Jane. This has been very informative.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming by.
Barry and Piper Thomas and their family live in a picture, or at least that's how I like to describe their garden. Piper puts a lot of hard work into making the grounds beautiful.
Piper's a great companion. You know, I think as you're a couple, your life, it's a journey. And my journey is to become an artist. It's my vocation. And I love being out here in the country. And I'm real grateful to have my companion on this journey to be my wife who loves the garden.
When we got ready to remodel and add our kitchen on, the architect came over and the first thing he said was, where do you want your dining room? And I said, I don't want a dining room. I want my dining room on my back porch, and I want the table outside because we eat outside morning, noon, and night most of the year. And when we were talking about the kitchen, I told him I had to be able to stand at my kitchen window. I need to be able to see my rose garden, the front drive, and then I want to be able to turn around this way and see my perennial garden. I said, I don't care how you do it. And I wanted a pass-through window so we could, from the kitchen counter, pass the dishes and things back and forth so it would make it easy to live out there. I think he thought I was kind of crazy because I was more worried about seeing my outside space and seeing that greenery come through to the inside than I was what was on the countertops or any of that kind of thing. We spend most of our time outside. It's funny, Barry doesn't play golf. We work in the yard. Barry and I work together real well. We think a lot alike. Our taste is a lot alike. So it's been great. It makes it very easy.
Now, an outdoor kitchen doesn't have to be elaborate. You don't have to build an entire building. Think about creating a place on your patio or terrace. Maybe it's just a chimenea with a couple of chairs where you can sit and enjoy on cool evenings. Or perhaps you have a beautiful grill and a table where you can bring friends together and enjoy the bounty of both the garden and your outdoor kitchen. One of the great things about gardening is that there is so much bounty to share. I know in the past I've grown lots of extra lettuce, tomatoes, and peppers, you name it, and I always produce more than I can eat myself. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at grills lately, but there is such a wide range of them to choose from the simplest to some very sophisticated models. Grilling in America just in the past 3 years has increased over 10%. Americans are really into grilling. Over 60% grill year-round, and 8 to 10 households own a grill or a smoker. In fact, a few years ago, I pulled out my old backyard grill and cooked up some veggies using a simple technique. There's nothing like enjoying the flavor of fresh vegetables, whether you grow them yourself or pick them up at the market. One of my favorite ways to cook vegetables is just to put them on a grill. You can't beat the flavor of fresh squash, onions, bell peppers, and eggplant when cooked on an open fire. Virtually any vegetable is suitable for grilling, and you'll be surprised at how good they taste. I like to make a simple marinade from vinegar, olive oil, a little crushed garlic, and whatever herbs I happen to have, and of course some salt and pepper. One of my favorite herbs to use on vegetables is thyme. Whether it's fresh or dried, it always enhances the flavor. Now, once I've prepared the marinade, I just quickly coat the vegetables on all sides, top and bottom. Now, if you're using small, delicate vegetables like mushrooms and new potatoes, you'll want to keep them from falling through the grill. Just use a piece of aluminum foil with holes punctured in it. Or if you're lucky enough to find one of these grilling baskets, they're ideal. The open wire mesh of these baskets will allow the smoke to flavor the vegetables, and turning them is a snap. I just place larger vegetables like peppers and eggplants directly onto the grate, and a medium to hot fire will have them ready before you know it. So you'll need to watch them closely, turning them as each side begins to brown. When you already have the grill set up for chicken or steak, try grilling some fresh vegetables to round out the meal. The taste is great. I know these guys are getting hungry.
Hey, Alan, you have lunch ready yet?
It'll be ready in just a second.
All
See what I
right.
mean? They're always hungry. Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, and I hope you've picked up some tips on how to expand your living space outdoors and enjoy the beauty and the bounty of the garden. Until next time, from the Garden Home, I'm Alan Smith. Okay, guys, come on. More information about today's topic and other topics covered in this series can be found at pallansmith.com.
On an upcoming episode of P. Allen Smith's Garden Home.
From a grand American estate, we'll distill ideas that can be used in any garden. We'll explore this part of the estate that's focused on the imagination of children. while this serpentine path leads us to another garden, one I designed. Looking forward to our next visit in the garden home.